Utilizing various G.I. Joe Classified series parts and Action Force Valaverse gear sets, we have come up with this Kitbash version of a 1:12 scale combat medic. Let us first do a quick 360 view of the action figure before we discuss changes and accessories and parts that are used. Since this 1:12 scale figure does not resemble any of the known G.I. Joe characters that is in the medical field specialty, let me christen this figure with a call sign that is befitting it. So call sign Taurus, or the Raging Bull. As for the gear set that is used on this action figure, we used two of the security enforcement gear pack. And as for the backpack, that is Action Force Valaverse 2, but it so happened that I already have that on board in my collection, in my spare accessories bin for Kitbash figures like this. As for the main weapon, it's going to come from Mark II Toys. So let's start from the top. So the head unit comes from Marvel Legends Hawkeye, this action figure, which I also modded. Okay, so let's start with the body parts. So after identifying the head unit, let's go to the neck, the body, and the arms. So that belongs to G.I. Joe Classified series Recondo. Man briefs, legs comes from G.I. Joe Classified series Python Patrol Cobra Officer. So with the shins. But with regards to the foot of the action figure, so that is not your G.I. Joe Classified series Python Patrol Cobra Officer combination of a leg unit or leg set. So that foot belongs to G.I. Joe Classified series Tiger Force Duke. So this is a heavily modified Action Force Valaverse Security Enforcement Gear Pack set. So I've combined two Action Force Valaverse set to make one of these builds. So let's take a closer look at the gear set. As for the main battle rifle or battle implement, we're just going to make it very simple. Just a basic rifle with a broomstick and a red dot sight. If you're going to haul a lot of gear, especially magazines and other equipment or medical equipment, if you're a medical officer, you're going to carry bags of IV on your back. So might as well lighten the load. So very basic fighting rifle. Okay, so we have Jeremy Renner on a T pose. Okay, so let us first discuss a issue with regards to fitting that head to this G.I. Joe Classified series body, because the hole on that head, the mounting system is going to be different. It's bigger than the pegs that are offered by G.I. Joe Classified series. So you have to have stick glue on board to perfectly mount that head to that neckline. And it would take several attempts for mounting that head properly. So you would have to really check out the space of the neckline and with regards to the proportion to the shoulder line, because it has to be really anatomically correct. Since I already mentioned that I used two Action Force Security Enforcement gear sets and various Action Force Valaverse items on this action figure, let us discuss that. Okay, so since we already have the figure on a T pose, so take a look at the front of the vest. That is not your standard Action Force Valaverse setup. That is my personal setup, how I would like to have this medic officer or combat medic utilize his gear. Okay, so of course he's a combat medic, he has to fight. So we have 4 rifle magazines up front. We also have the knife on this side. So that knife used to be up front over here on this section, and we have the medical pouch on this section, but I took it out, both items, the knife and the medical kit, and placed rifle magazine caddies up front. So that is just the simple changes, utilizing, of course, super glue. Okay, so let's move towards the battle belt. So this is no longer a pistol belt, it's going to be a battle belt, because he could ditch the body armor and the rest of his gear if needed, and he still could fight because we have ammunition on board and his sidearm. Okay, so let's take a look at the battle belt. So that is no longer an Action Force Valaverse setup, but it's going to be my setup for this combat medic. Okay, so 4 magazines for the pistol. So we have 4 magazines for the pistol. I added rifle magazine caddies, so he has 2 additional. So total magazines that this action figure carries for his rifle is going to be 6. So that's going to be 6 magazines plus the one inserted on his rifle. That's going to be 7 magazines, more than enough actually. Okay, so on this side, that used to have a knife, molded knife, but now it has a medical bag or first aid bag. So this is going to be the personal first aid bag of this action figure. And for quick field aid to other team members, it's going to be this bag. And for very serious medical attention, if for example 2 of his teammates or 3 of his teammates or civilians get hurt on the way, then he has a bigger medical bag to rely on, okay, which we are going to open later. So I also resituated the communications gear to the side of the vest by just gluing it. So nothing very fancy, and instead of having a very long antenna for the radio, I cut it off down, so it's just going to be nice and short, just right. So when I play with this action figure, I won't be disturbing that antenna system, and it's glued in place. Okay, so as for the medical gear, then you are really familiar with how Action Force Valaverse backpacks work. So they could open and reveal items or a storage space inside. Okay, so what do I have inside? Of course, I cannot mimic the items that a combat medic would carry on his backpack, because that is impossible in 1:12 scale. But if it's 1:6 scale or the 12-inch figure, then sky is the limit. But for 1:12, then this is the only thing that we could do. Of course, we're not going to put a cross or a medic symbol on any part of this action figure, because it's going to be a target. So just very simple. He blends in with the other guys on his team or in his team. Okay, so let's open that backpack. So to engage in medical attention, then this is just my simple solution. Just jam a Fortnite medic kit in there to resemble whatever 1:12 scale medical kit there is. Okay, so we have these 2 guys in frame because I'm going to discuss the last changes, especially on the head unit. So it's not just going to be the fitting of the head to the body. It's going to be this time how that helmet fits on that head unit. So first dunk this head unit in hot boiling water, and the hair of that head unit is going to detach from the actual head unit, because you can't have a proper fitting helmet like this if you're not going to trim out that hair line. So you literally have to take off material to have a proper fitting helmet like this. And that helmet is already glued on that head unit, so it's not going off anytime soon. It's going to be there as long as I keep this figure displayed or in my collection. So that's it. With regards to item that I excluded on this build, it's going to be the inclusion of night vision goggles, because that is additional weight on his gear. He already has a lot of items on his body. So we have a very heavy medical bag, we have ammunition, we have other medical items, a pistol, a rifle. So that's a lot of weight. Even the communication device, the radio, and that helmet too is also weight. So having additional equipment on board, I would like to lighten the load of this action figure. So it's going to be as realistic as possible, as close to the real thing as I could, or be possibly could, I mean. Okay, so I hope that you like this action figure build, something that I think we're not going to get with Action Force Valaverse. We're not going to get a combat medic, or maybe he has a combat medic in mind, a different design, and we'll just know soon if he has one on board. But for the meantime, we could build this version from whatever Action Force Valaverse and G.I. Joe Classified series that we could put together. So, are we going to see Doc or Lifeline in the G.I. Joe Classified series line this year or next year? That is a mystery. So, if you like this review, like, comment, and subscribe to help me grow my channel. And see you on the next action figure or custom action figure review.